guys, Jay here. Welcome to Eons of Battle. Every year around this time, I get out every model that I painted over the course of the year. I get them all out, and it's always surprising what this ends up looking. This is a tables full of miniatures, but what is the number? Last year, I ended up painting 360 miniatures, which was a lot, it was basically a miniature per day. And this year, I felt like I was not painting quite as much. Although in my defense, I painted some really girthy miniatures this year. A lot of big stuff. I think I went through 4 bags of Cobalt Keep 50mm magnet bases. There's some chunky boys, and I enjoy painting a good chunky boy. But this absolute wall of miniatures in front of me, every model I painted this year is 300. 300 miniatures on the dot. When I was confabulating my results, because I have a spreadsheet, I was very shocked when I made it do the math for me, and it was 300 even. 300 miniatures. The breakdown is actually kind of wild. I painted a lot of 40K this year. The big thing that I added to my collection this year was, for the first time ever, Tau. But not a lot of Tau, mostly Kroot. I painted 1,200 points of Kroot. 70 Kroot Carnivores, 9 Krootox Riders, all of the HQs that are available for the Kroot, couple of Tau Zs. I'm gonna paint more Tau next year, but I have a Kroot army, and I've played with the Kroot army. I played with my full list in Tabletop Simulator a few times, and I really like it. It is mostly Kroot with a little bit of Tau, but now that I'm going to actually add the Tau pieces, hopefully this army will actually be able to kill things. I played a game against Sean and his Emperor's Children, and even though we scored very similarly on points, because with the Kroot, I own board control, I was almost tabled at the end of 5 rounds, and I think I killed 2 squads of Infractors and a Demon Prince, and that was it. And I think I killed a Rhino. I killed a couple of things, but he still had most of his army. The Kroot, they're not about killing, they're about control, but I'm gonna get some Tau that are about killing. I really, really like the Kroot. It was really, really fun to collect. It's been really, really fun to paint these guys. A very natural force, which I thought I would be painting some natural stuff this year, but I didn't think it would be 40K. I thought I would paint more Age of Sigmar. The only thing I really got done for Age of Sigmar is my newest Spearhead. I really like the game of Spearhead. It's like Age of Sigmar's Combat Patrol, where you just get the box that's on the shelf, put it together, and that's your army to play with. And I got the Boner Boys, the Age of Sigmar Necrons, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. I got the Mortesian Elite box. This is a gaggle of really, really big fellas that are arguably too big for Spearhead. They are chunky guys, but not very many of them. And so this Spearhead tends to either dominate or just absolutely fail on its face, depending on how well I do on my saving throw rolls. Sometimes I do okay, oftentimes I do really, really bad. Only 6 wounds on this monstrosity. That does not feel correct. I do enjoy painting for Age of Sigmar though, and the Skaven have got me a little bit interested. I have some Skaven kicking around in my pile of shame, and maybe I want to add some more Skaven to that pile of shame. Oh, I saw a really good deal on Doom Wheels on eBay a while ago. I wonder if I can still get those. But before I make even more problems for myself, I painted 815 points of Death Guard in 5 miniatures. I added almost 1,000 points with just a few things. This is a Knight Tyrant for the Chaos Knights. Oh, and he is glorious. Painted in one 24-hour session. He is so gross, and I love him so much, and he is so pointy and so spiky and so covered in horrible pustules. He's got a face on his butt, and then he's also got 2 faces on his face. I love this guy. The Death Guard are so much fun to paint for. Arguably, I would say he's not quite done. I did as much as I possibly could in the time I had, and I'm very proud at the results that I was able to get him to, but I would like to take him a little bit further. He is not to the level of some of my other Death Guard models, like the Biologist Putrefier? No, that's not what you are. You're one of the other ones. Foul Blightspawn. This guy is the Foul Blightspawn. I was never a big fan of this model, but I wanted it in my army because he grants the squad he's attached to fights first, which is really good. And so I decided to pick him up and decided to paint him. And now that I've painted him up, I really like him. He might be my best painted Death Guard. He is fantastic. In his big backpack barrel thing, I painted it so that he has Mountain Dew Baja Blast in there. and he's my favorite. I really, really like him, and I did not like him looking at him on the Games Workshop web store, but having him in my hand, painted up in my style, I really, really like him. Also got the War Dog Brigands, which unfortunately, according to the rules, I'm not allowed to have War Dog Brigands and a Chaos Knight, a proper big Stompy Knight, in the same allies for a Chaos Space Marine army, so I'll have to pick and choose. Sometimes I'll play with the War Dog, sometimes I'll play with the big boy, but I do want to start playing with my Death Guard. I have over 2,000 points. It's just a weird assortment of 2,000 points. It's not really a proper army. I just need some more Rhinos and I need some more Plague Marines, and then my army will be complete and ready to be on the battlefield. I think I've only played them once in Tabletop Simulator, and I've played against them a few times on the table at my friendly local game store, but the Death Guard are really, really neat. I didn't feel like I painted nearly 1,000 points of Death Guard this year, but I really didn't feel like I painted 1,365 points of Necrons. I got on a little bit of a Necron kick towards the middle of the year, and I painted a lot for the Necrons. I got 40 warriors, I got a whole gaggle of destroyers, and these two things that I desperately, desperately needed. These are Catacomb Command, no, they're not Catacomb Command Barges, they are Doomsday Arcs. These suckers are wonderful. Costing in at a whopping 200 points in-game, these battle buses are mobile guns. There's almost no vehicle here, it's just the gigantic gun, and what a gun it is. These guys are wonderful. They are are they the tankiest vehicles in the game? The Rogel Doran gets to blanket damage once per game, which is very powerful ability. But these guys have reanimation protocols along with their 2-up save and ridiculous number of wounds. And I think they have a 5-up invuln. Like they're really, really solid vehicles. And I've got 2 of them. I've been thinking about adding a 3rd, but honestly, I really should play with the 2 that I have to see if I even feel like I want to be bringing a 3rd one to my games. Again, 200 points in game. I've never had a lot of vehicles in my Necron armies because I'm really bad about painting vehicles. I just don't paint that many, but vehicles are a really important thing in the game, and so I should have more vehicles. I also got to paint some of my favorite Necron things, like the Locust Destroyer, these little weird centaur Necrons. I think these are one of the earliest things I ever bought for Warhammer 40K in general. My first box of 40K in my life was the Death Marks. I think I built them as Death Marks, and then years later, I turned them into Immortals for my army because I wanted 2 giant bricks of Immortals. I should get another box of Hex Marks one of these days, or Locusts, but I really, really like the Locust Destroyers. And I kit bashed a Locust Lord. This guy, I probably shouldn't have kit bashed him because chances are, this is not a model that Games Workshop sells. This is a Locust Heavy Destroyer body with that's been cut up and converted to be a Locust Destroyer Lord. Chances are this guy is gonna go to Legends in the very near future, but I don't care. I wanted him in game. He can do some really, really silly stuff. With an enhancement in Awakened Dynasty, he can give the squad he's attached to stealth. And so that is 6 destroyers, which I believe are toughness 6 with 4 wounds apiece. I think it's 3 wounds apiece. But then they have reanimation protocols and -1 to be hit. Like, it makes for a ridiculously tanky squad. Although I took it to a tournament and Angron punched the entire squad dead in one swipe, which was kind of a feel bads moment. One other Necron thing that I always wanted but just never had in the collection is some of these. These are the Triarch Praetorians, the police of the Necron faction. Not amazing in game, although not bad. They're kind of like jump pack infantry, but they're just really, really funky dudes. And I've always liked the look of them. I've owned every single Necron codex ever made, and I always see these suckers in the back of the codex in the pretty picture section. And they do speak to me a little bit. I really like this cage that they've got on their back. I like these weird little weapons. I like their weird, silly little tails that they've got. I really like these, but I never really meant to have any in my army. I actually bought the boxes that I used to build these guys to have Lichguard, because Lichguard are just awesome. But at the last second, I was like, you know what? We're doing it. Triarch Praetorians. I now have a 10-man squad, which is going to be perfect for 2 5-man squads to give me a little bit more ability to scoot my Necrons around the board. So many Necrons. And I'm probably going to be painting more Necrons in the near future because there is that really cool Ophidian Destroyer character that is coming out and I don't have any Ophidian Destroyers in my collection, so gonna need to do something about that. But speaking of doing something, I painted 900 points of Space Marines. I guess it wasn't really a light year for Space Marines. I painted nearly 1,000 points to add to my 16,000 point Black Templars collection, but I got a lot of single units done. I got a lot of Gravis stuff done, and what's a little bit frustrating is I painted a lot of 3-man squads, but often in game, I would want to reinforce them to their maximum 6-man squads. So even though I have all of these things painted up, I kind of want to do it all again so that then I have the maximum squads, because 3 aggressors is fine. That's perfectly reasonable number, but 6 with an attached character is when things start to get really, really spicy. There's definitely something to the smaller squads, especially for Gravis, because they're tankier than your average Space Marine, and so your opponent is going to have to put more into them to wipe them off the board. But I do like to go big, and the little 3-man squads is not necessarily going big. I do like them a lot. I have not painted a lot of Gravis, but this year I painted a lot of Gravis. And speaking of Gravis, the Outriders. Oh, the Outriders. These guys are from the Leviathan. No, they're not even from the Leviathan box. They're from the one before that. Indomitus? The one with the Necrons versus the Space Marines. These guys are actually kind of old now in the pantheon of the Space Marine range. 6 years, but I really like them. I really like Space Marine bikes. I remember one purchase that I made back in the Dizay in high school. I painted some guy's saxophone, and the money he gave me for painting it, I painted like a starscape on it. It was really cool. And he paid me enough money that I bought 2 boxes of Space Marine bikes and then 1 of the bikes with the sidecars. And I remember feeling like such a baller when I bought all of those boxes at once and I was walking out of the Warhammer store. But now I don't even use those models because I'm gonna use the Outriders because they're kind of better. They're really, really cool, and I want some more of these guys immediately. The last thing I did for Warhammer 40,000 this year was I painted some Drukari. I kind of finished up my Dark Eldar army that I painted along with Scott the Miniature Maniac, and now I have 2,000 points of Dark Eldar, I have a little bit more than 2,000 points and a little bit less than 2,000 points because the Codex came out and it killed some of my units, so I'm gonna have to add a few more things to the army. But speaking of adding things to the army, one model that I have always adored is the Tantalai. The Tantalus from Forge World is one of the coolest things to ever exist. It's such an elegant and monstrous little floating boat with a literal sail and spikes and points and crew. These things are incredible. And I don't have just one. Nay, I have 2. I've got 2 of these things. One of them done in my Cabalite pink and one of them done in my blood-soaked rack color scheme. These things, I love them so much. And I don't like to touch them too much because they're incredibly fragile. They're all Forge World resin. The paint is already starting to flake a little bit because the paint doesn't love to stick to resin. And they're rough. Like, they're not good toys, which is a problem because I treat my models like toys, but as miniatures. These are some of the coolest things to ever exist, and I have 2 of them. They were sent to Legends the week that I finished painting them, but I don't even care. I've taken them in game once now. I took them against Scott the Miniature Maniac and I kicked his butt, but I love them. I love them so much. They're just the coolest model. I don't even think Games Workshop could plasticify these. They don't really work as resin kits, and I feel like they almost still wouldn't really work as plastic kits. It would take like 10 sprues to actually get all of the components to make these incredible machines. I also got some Harlequins done. I got the Harlequin Starweaver jet bikes. These are some really cool, kind of tough bikes with haywire blasters underneath them. And I really like the Harlequins. When I was at the Nova Open this year, in one of the booths, there was a secondhand seller, and he actually had tons of Harlequins. So I bought an entire Harlequins army just about, new on sprue. So I get to make them exactly how I want them. And with new detachments like the Reaper's Wager and the new Grotmist detachment, there is a lot of really, really fun stuff to be had with bringing mostly Harlequins and just Harlequins to games of Warhammer 40,000, which is really, really nice. I'm glad that Harlequins have not, they were their own army. I think in like 8th edition and 9th edition, they were their own faction, but they're a little bit of a wimpy faction, and it looked like in 10th edition they were gonna get rolled into Dark Eldar and Drukari, or in Dark Eldar and regular Eldar, but they are remaining as their own thing, sort of. And I got a bunch of them. 900 points of Drukari, mostly in the Tantaluses. That brings me to 5,190 points of Warhammer 40,000 painted this year. That is 2.5 full-size 40k armies, but split amongst all of my different factions. Most of my armies are very, very playable with a lot of really, really fun stuff going on. I just want to play more 40k because now I've got my Necrons out. I want to play my Necrons. I do want to be able to put Death Guard on the table. Obviously, my Black Templar, I have more than enough to play almost any type of army list that I could possibly want. My Dark Eldar are awesome, although I'm a little scared of the new codex because it's a lot of words. There's a lot of words in the new Dark Eldar codex, and I'd have to learn them all in order to actually play with it. But I could do it. I could make it happen. Index Dark Eldar, though, was kind of perfect. I really liked the Power from Pain rule. That has changed a little bit now in the codex, where it does more specific benefits to every single unit as opposed to just one benefit that you can turn on and off for your army. So much 40k. But I also got to paint some other really cool things. One of the coolest being our own Eons of Battle miniatures. In the proxies for some Trench Crusade models, the Catacomb Sappers and the Grace of Flesh. I pulled out all the stops in painting these guys. I spent hours upon hours upon hours per miniature, and they are absolutely phenomenal. I've been staring at these models for the whole entire year. I mean, we came up with these. We made these happen. These models did not exist, and then we invented them, and I love them. They're so cool. The Praetor, this really, really scary chimeric monstrosity, and the plucky little French sapper with his mustache and his little shovel. He is ready to do some business. And actually, weirdly enough, on the tabletop, not impossibly different in power scale, this one little lieutenant versus the mighty Praetor. He can do a lot of work with that shovel. In game, we use the shovel as the sword, but in the miniature, it's a shovel. I really, really like these miniatures. And in the upcoming year, these are going to be available on EonsBattle.com, cast in resin. I am super proud of these miniatures. They turned out really, really nice. I don't want to handle them too much. I just want to look at them. I just want to look at them forever. But speaking of looking at things, I actually tried out a bunch of new games this year. I got an entire fleet done for the game Drop Fleet Commander, not to be confused with Drop Zone Commander. It's kind of the same game, but Drop Zone is for land battles and Drop Fleet is for space battles. And I really like these boats. I painted one of every single faction in the game, including a bunch of stuff for the UCM, the Sheltari, and the Scourge. But I was thinking like, okay, I'll paint one of each so that I can pick which faction I like the best. And I can't pick, I like them all a lot. I really, really like the Post-Human Republic, the Resistance, the Scourge, the Sheltari with their crazy orange and green color scheme. I think I'm just gonna keep painting up a lot more Drop Fleet because I just really, really like it. And it's a really interesting game. It reminds me a lot of the things that I really love about the old game X-Wing. Back in the day, like 2015, X-Wing was the best miniature game in the world, but now it's a little bit dead. But Drop Fleet Commander definitely scratches a lot of those X-Wing itches. And I painted a bunch of stuff for Infinity. One of my favorite pieces, the Magriba. You wouldn't know it to look at it, but this is a metal miniature and it weighs about a pound. I wanted this for the collection specifically because it is probably the most obtuse, obnoxious miniature to ever exist. It's too heavy. Like if I dropped this on my foot, I would hurt myself. It weighs a ton, but it is a really, really nice looking miniature. I a little bit hope that they recreate it in plastic like they've been doing for a lot of their other sculpts, a lot of the other bigger things. Like this, you're not the Daikai. This is a tag for the JSA, the Japanese secessionist army. And it's made in plastic, and it's really, really light and perfect, where this guy is so heavy and not perfect, but for the absolute meme that he is, I really wanted the Mag Reba. Rounding out the year, I got some really fun work done on one of my favorite games of all time, a little game called Moonstone. I have been playing a ton of this game. I enjoy the spit out of it. It is a really, really nice palate cleanser of a war game because it doesn't require dice to play. You just do card draws to do all of your actions and your things. And so there's no math to constantly be going through your head. When you're playing 40K, especially at like a tournament level, all day long, you're thinking, okay, 24 attacks converts into 14 successful hits. 14 successful hits converts into 6 successful wounds. AP -4 is saved on a 6, then drop 2 more wounds off of that. And then I can expect this many armor saves to be failed by my opponent. Like your brain is just doing that nonstop all day long. Moonstone, there's no math. It's just bluffing. And it makes it a really, really fun, enjoyable game because you just kind of have to guess and hope. And there's definitely some strategy in the card draws. Like, in the combat phase, I've got my combat deck in front of me. Should I play this? Should I play this impact card, or should I play this lance card, or should I go for a defense card? There's a little bit of strategy there, but it's not math. It tickles a different part of your brain. And speaking of tickling, these models have tickled me so much. These are some of my models of the year. Tito for the fairy faction with her incredible, like glowing eye wings. That was very, very hard to paint, but I'm glad that I went through the trouble of doing a really, really good job on her wings. And little Doug the Flatulent over here, a little goblin pug rider. I think both of these guys were painted up in one long feverish painting session, and I really, really like them. Moonstone is an absolute treat of a war game to paint and to play. And, you know, I painted 5,000 points of 40K, so I can allow myself a couple of little Gabo friends. I painted up a bunch of Moonstone this year, but a brand new war game to me that I discovered this year is Conflict 47. One weekend, I was feeling a little bored, and so I drove to the friendly local game store and I just picked up some Conflict, because I've always kind of had my eye on these miniatures. It's always a neat, weird, wacky World War II with walkers and mechs, but these miniatures are really, really fun to paint. I am very unpracticed at painting things in a realistic style, and so I'm learning. I've been trying to watch some YouTube videos of like scale model makers, but actual scale model makers who are going for accuracy and realism. And it's interesting to see some of their techniques as opposed to dunk everything in speed paint and then push the highlights to the moon. There's a lot of really, really fun things that you can do with a more realistic mini. And then it's not so realistic that it's not a giant mech walker with a 50 cal machine gun up top and a couple of little crew members with big old shoulder pads. Because as we all know, in any sci-fi setting, you need some really big shoulder pads. This is the Pond Walker for the USA faction. If you can believe it, this is the America faction. And I had a lot of fun putting on as many decals as I could. I'm really excited to paint some more Conflict. Honestly, with this one Pond Walker and a couple of Fireflies, I'm well on my way. I've got like a third of a decent playable force done, and there's plenty more in the box where that came from. Conflict 47 has got me painting with every color in the rainbow, but you know where I could acquire every color in the rainbow? EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find all sorts of great hobby goodies. We got brushes, we got wet palettes, we got basing toppers and bits, we got transfers, we got cork, we got glue of all different types, and we have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack we've ever made or the brand spanking new one. Our new terrain for December, the Bubble City. Embrace your inner amphibian with this alien encampment, a truly unique series of aquatic structures like the Bubble House, Bubble Command Center, and Bubble Fortress. And it's not just buildings, it also has some powerful defenses in the turret and shield walls. Get ready to get immersed in some underwater goodness, perfect for all the popular war games. It has been a very fun year of painting and playing war games. I actually think playing the game has really influenced what I ended up painting, because I painted up Necrons when I was playing with my Necrons. I painted up Drukari when I was playing my Drukari, and I am really excited to get playing on some Tau. It's a really, really fun play style. Kroot are tougher than you'd think, even though they have a literal 7-up save. These guys are really fun on the tabletop because they don't die like guardsmen, or even, well, Necron warriors, they die, but they come back. They're like Chumbawamba. I really, really enjoy playing the Kroot. And of course, I'm gonna keep on painting some Moonstone and some of these other games. But what was my miniature of the year? I mean, I feel like there's a lot of really, really good options. And some of my favorite things in my collection were painted this year, like the Tantaluses and the Tyrant. But what is model of the year? I think I might have to give it to Shadow Sun. I just painted her up. But man, in terms of a miniature, this is a miniature. The striking white armor, the fact that I kitbashed and converted everything about this miniature, the drones, the melta guns, the little epic base and cactuses. I absolutely love this miniature. I love how it turned out. I love looking at it. And I think that this has to be my model of the year. Let me know in the comments below, how many miniatures did you get done this year, and what was your favorite miniature that you have painted this year? For me, I've really, really fallen in love with the Tau, but also the Necrons. Whenever I get the Necrons out and I see their crispy white armor, it really does something for me. I think I need to get some of those Ophidian Destroyers. Thanks for watching.